Afternoon. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter here on a moon night and a moon hour. With the moon on my ascendant, 25 degrees, already moved to Pisces, applying the conjunct Neptune, operating from opposition to Mercury, and sextiling at 22-degree Uranus. Venus is just 5 astrological minutes away from entering the 22nd degree, which I talked about extensively, and I gave you some energies like Algol and Al-Qaid that you can work with to remedy, as well as turning to Venus and Uranus themselves. But this episode is actually about a very ancient symbol. And this is a symbol that if you grew up in Asia, is familiar to you and in a very positive. Some of the countries even banned this symbol. This is the swastika. And so the swastika, the origin of swastika, which you can find literally everywhere, and every time I hear about new places that are earlier and earlier where the swastika was found, I was even told Egypt recently. So I knew about India, I knew about Asia, I knew about Christianity, I knew about Judaism. Okay, this is also a Hebrew symbol. And the origin is tending, I think, to the 4 directions and the governing of health, well-being, health, peace, love, and abundance. Okay, health, peace, love, and abundance in various forms, various languages, various ways. If you know the hand of Ganesha, Indian deity, that on the hand is basically a deity that looks a bit like an elephant, but with the feet of a person sitting cross-legged on the floor, and with one of his hands, Ganesha is basically having the painting of the swastika. Okay, and this is such an ancient and such a core symbol to humanity. It's almost like the turtle. Okay, if you think about the turtle as the animal that carries the weight of the world on its back, and moves slowly but gradually brings a lot of wealth, and to tend to a turtle, which I am now doing, is actually very beautiful. Another connection that I saw with the turtle and the moon actually was Seychelles. There are a lot of tortoise just walking in Seychelles, but they're like really big ones, and they catch photos with the tourists, and it's just so cute. And so another one of these symbols, like the ancient turtle, is basically the swastika. So if you have been watching any episode about the occultism that Nazis believed in, or the occult of Hitler, then you know that Hitler basically took the swastika and went back to Germanic tribe and tribe life, and basically attempted to make such a occultist connection around the swastika and bring it into the Nazi party. That did not age well, and so eventually Germany lost, and the swastika itself was banned, and Mein Kampf was banned, even though when you look and you actually read what he wrote, it's nothing unusual to the thinkers of the West. And unfortunately, there are even tribal communities who believe in the same way. If you think about marking on the skin or special markings of the body to let them know that the person is from one tribe and not from another, and to not assimilate with other tribe, and to maintain the peace by lack of assimilation. This is not something that Hitler invented, okay? And that's why he was not considered extremist at his time. He was affected by people like Churchill and so on and so forth. So this is also important to know when we cover this topic, um, because the atrocities of the Nazis were basically a study case to many types of very severe atrocities and genocides and medical oppression or oppression in the name of medicine, and overly emphasizing struggle and strife and war and eternal war of existence, rather than the joy of living, which is what we come to experience here on earth, and what is also the original symbol of the swastika. Okay, the swastika is about the four directions: health, abundance, love, and peace. Okay, health, abundance, love, peace, all these values that are balanced and balancing each other. And that emphasis on understanding that every direction you go to, there is something good in it. You turn to this direction, you have well-being, you have wealth. You turn to that direction, you have love. Okay, and when you stand in here in the center, you are surrounded by love, peace, abundance, and health. Okay, to center in this is very important. This is also, I would actually, as a person who was born and raised in Israel, albeit being half Dutch, and absorbed a lot of the Israeli culture, I have to say that there's a very interesting story, because a lot of us are second and third generation to survivors of the war. Okay, what do you call it? The Holocaust, where there's people who escaped before that, or people who experienced that in Africa, Northern Africa, and even in the Middle East. And so we grew up to a culture that basically banned the swastika. They basically couldn't look at the swastika. Okay, and this is a symbol. But in Israeli culture, there is something very special. Between going to the army, I think army service is mandatory, although not all people are recruited, and not all people go to the army. Like, some people manage to not do that. It's not easy, but they do. And so basically, there is this phase of between the army and your first degree. That's why Israelis begin first degree very late, maybe at 24, 25, sometimes even later. Okay, this is in case they have the money. You are basically expected to travel. And the number one destination that Israelis travel to, alongside South America, is India. And so I was in Europe, but because I'm half Dutch, but most Israelis have been to India. And then what happens is you go to India, of course you're going to probably, I haven't been there unfortunately, but you're going to very likely run into the swastika. And it's not only that you're expected to travel. Most people, they don't just travel to do drugs and shit. Like, they actually go to do yoga. They actually go to meditate. They actually go for retreats. Like, they definitely intend to go through the spiritual growth, and then they come back with this knowledge and with this information, very well traveled. So that whole cosmic travel where we grew up in a culture that bans the swastika, but then we are expected to travel, and it's almost by a cosmic hand that when we do, we're gonna reach the swastika again. And when I was actually about the age of when people do that traveling, we would be traveling to Europe, but I had actually met online an American filmmaker, and she was talking about the swastika, and she gave me the first initial information that the swastika was originally an Indian symbol. Okay, I don't even remember how we got to talk about it. I was in a very weird connection with the German musician, and then she was kind of like a group of friends. And so even to me, when I wasn't going to India, I wasn't going to Thailand, I wasn't going to Asia, but I was only in Europe, in which, of course, the swastika is banned. And if I would see swastika, it would only be in the context of trying to terrorize people. Okay? And so even for me, this information found its way to me. Okay? And this is something that it took me time to appreciate. I talked in another video about the fact that when I was around 12, I clearly remember that it was a time where I began to take symbols of horror and invert them into symbols that are positive. And funnily enough, the person that I met in 2007, he was doing that with lyrics of songs. So it was a very disturbed connection. It was a very violent connection, but unfortunately, but I also cannot ignore that. Okay, and so I knew that I would do something with Nazi symbolism to invert it into something good. Okay, to take those things that were used to terrorize people and to use them favorably, to use them in favor of humanity. I knew it from age 12. I didn't know why or in what context. And as I'm looking at what is going on in the world, I understand that more and more that the egregore of oppressive powers in many, many places is basically, and I'm very grateful to Gigi Young in that, and this is basically still working on that very German occult, not German, like the Nazi occultists. I know this is a Norway German, okay? This is a Norway German, and still taking on these symbols and inverting them and using the inverted symbols rather than the original symbols is taking place and being used as the occult, as the egregore to oppress people. And Gigi Young says very smartly, don't feed the egregore. And so I have another, like, it's not another, it's a complementary perspective on that, and that is that the symbols themselves originated, at least the swastika originated from India. And I have a neighbor singing a mantra of Hare Krishna in the background, which is so symbolic and beautiful. And that was not just India, it was Africa, it was Egypt, it was Asia, it was Judaism, it was Christianity, it was math symbol Aleph, okay? And the letter Aleph is even derived in a way quite similar to the swastika. And so I began to actually use this symbol with the original meaning and set intention to purify the egregore, which is a practice that if you feel called in to do so and to reclaim the swastika and work with the swastika, one of the first things I wrote about, beside the symbol of the swastika, is biodiversity. And I address a lot how biodiversity is the remedy for many of the ailments caused by not only Nazi ideology, but the very ideology of purifying of the race, of eugenics, but actually it's biodiversity and also meeting different opinions, different worldviews that is healthy for the nervous system, is healthy for the immune system, and basically makes us not just more resilient, but more joyous people to live around the earth because we feel more connected and we are constantly have this childlike curiosity to see the world from another angle, to see the world from another point of view, which is lacking in eugenics. Okay? So we are not trying to avoid life or fear assimilation, but rather be friendly to one another and encounter people that bring something new to our life. And we become more easily tolerant towards our differences because we are creative. And this is the same in biodiversity when you grow, when you farm in a permaculture farm versus a farm where you grow only one crop for, lines and lines and lines. It becomes very tender and the soil becomes very sensitive. Okay, just to take an example from my soil, I was just throwing fruits and veggies for a while, and then one of them just seeded into a beautiful pepper plant, and it has a lot of peppers, and it grew up very lush, okay, very healthy, and very easily. Okay, all I had to do is water the area because I was thinking about it as compost, and suddenly this plant grew and it had a nourishment naturally, effortlessly, okay, just by habits, by good habits. I was feeding my turtle, and then I was throwing some of the old fruits and veggies, then I was putting some soil, and that's it. That's it, okay, wu wei, almost no effort. And when the pepper grew, I was already coming to water it naturally. I would make the extra step. It was easier for me. Okay, why? Biodiversity. The soil, from the soil, it was healthy. And then when the plant grew, it was easier for me to tend to it. It was easier. Okay, it's not just pepper itself, but all the process that I made with the soil, almost not noticing what I'm doing at that time. Okay, so we understand the importance of value like biodiversity to purify eugenics. And when you write it right next to the symbol, the swastika symbol, and set the intention to reclaim the egregore. This is our egregore. It's the egregore of health, love, beauty, balance, biodiversity, well-being, peace on earth. It's our egregore. The place where each and every one of us has more than enough, has plenty of soil, plenty of water, plenty of fruit and veggies. It's very easy to get along with each other. Okay? Look, when I look at my garden, I found a while ago, I just found a turtle. It was waiting at the crossroads. Somebody was jogging. He found it and he didn't know what to do with it. And I know that I have some land that I'm renting the place, and I have some land. So I brought the turtle and I started giving him food. And he liked cucumbers a lot. So some lettuce, some cucumbers. I don't know why I didn't eat any parsley or or coriander. They're supposed to be good for it. But I began feeding it, and as I was beginning to feed it, okay, there's leftovers left on the soil, and then I kind of paid attention. So whenever I would bring fruits and veggies and things would get like midway into no longer edible, I would just turn them into the soil so that they can nourish the soil. And just by this habit of tending to the turtle, I would have a clearer soil that basically was already nourishing for the plants. And then when the plants grew, it was just to make this extra steps like, yeah, I'm tired, but just look at pepper and I just want to water. And it's like, oh, come on, it's just that step, okay? It's just that extra step And I found myself behaving in ways that I never behaved before, maybe when I was very, very young. Okay? I found a sense of life and joy in me that has been recovered like from the ashes. That's the power of biodiversity. That's the power of ease. That's the power of tending to that which is tending to that, tending to things. And so, one of the words that I absolutely recommend putting when you work with the swastika on the 4 directions is biodiversity. Because remember, it's not just that we are reclaiming, it's not that we are bringing something back to what it was, it's that we are making something new by remembering. And if you think about astrology, even one of the planets of innovation is Uranus, and Uranus, it has a silly walk, and the way it plays with time, it takes something, or the Saturn that rules Aquarius, if you're not into like the outer planets thingy, the Saturn that rules Aquarius, it takes something from history and brings something into the new. Okay, so Hitler tried to do that with Mein Kampf, with the Nazi ideology, and it just didn't work. Okay, it didn't age well. It's not good for humanity. It deteriorates people. It makes people stressed. It makes people constantly struggling. Okay, there are better ways to do that. There's just better ways to do that. And so it's taken something of remembering that this, for example, the swastika symbol is ancient and is actually a symbol of wealth, peace, love, and health. And it's both remembering that and rejuvenating on that. I never did permaculture before. Even when my grandma, today I spoke with my mom and she said that my grandpa was told that avocado plants love growing together. And now she put 2 avocado plants and they genuinely began to grow more beautifully together. Okay, and my grandpa had a grocery store. And so this is just what he remembered that somebody told him. I don't know if it was before the war or after the war, but that was just something that ran in the family, and now we're retrieving. Alongside the fact that I'm making a podcast on YouTube in a cell phone that was made by people that probably wouldn't mind a raise, telling this story. And so reclaiming the symbols that were used for oppression is not just taking what was used against us to use in favor of humanity. In many cases, like the symbol of the swastika, it originated from something that's genuinely good. Okay, Gigi Young talks a lot about inversion, and she also covers the Nephilim, which is a very important. I learned a lot of this through filmmaking, actually, but she also covers the Nephilim myth and a lot of things that I really recommend watching. She does it from a Christian perspective. I'm possibilionist, but the essence is of truth. Okay, the essence is of truth. So whichever color this essence is coming from is just a variation on the canon that we all are. So if you feel called to work with this symbol, what is it, the swastika, or symbols of whichever occult practice that was considered dark or was considered oppressive, remembrance is always important, and you will see that the knowledge will come to you. Okay, I knew from 12 years old that I'm going to do something with something like what Hitler did, but in favor of humanity. Instead of to oppress humanity, in favor of humanity, take what he didn't do in favor of humanity. Lo and behold, I have Hitler's Mercury, and I have the ascendant and midheaven, if it's true, the ascendant of 24 degrees Pisces of Stalin. I don't know enough about Stalin, but it's basically to invert the inversion, okay, to bring back, to reclaim, in order to do something that is actually benefic for humanity. And this is in no, and again, it's just in no, it's not about provocation. It's a natural course of life. So if you feel called to do so you probably reach this video with a sense of, hey, I feel validation, because there can be a lot of shame associated with working with the symbols. Okay, sometimes you have to hide your work. Sometimes you have to, you can't just post a swastika on YouTube. Even when I saw Ganesha mantras, a lot of them were hid the swastika on his hand, so not to get canceled by YouTube. And again, it's not it's not to keep the pipe of Nazism and racism, not having water running through it is not cancel culture. That's what I'm saying. That being said, to work with these symbols in a way that is actually clearing up and cleaning up and reclaiming the egregore, because this is our egregore. And when we have connection to these origins, as well as the intent to do good and the acting upon this intent effectively, we are growing something good. It's more powerful. So, and you see the ascendant here was, in the beginning of this episode, was with Rahu, right where the eclipse would be of the Aries eclipse will be. Okay, so bringing in the new. And this is a very important for you to get, if you clicked on that video with the calling that, like, I've been called to do so, but I don't know how to do so. I don't know if I talked about this, but even on the Memorial Day for basically the victims of the Second World War, I actually lit a candle with the swastika on it and the words of, peace. Then I don't think I wrote biodiversity back then, but it's like word of the peace. I love the original thing, and I began to feel better. It was a very difficult day for me. Also, the astrology of the day was very difficult, okay, beyond the topic, and I actually began to feel better. So I'm clearing up the space, and I was like, wow, this is so powerful. This is so powerful. It's a powerful symbol of good. It's our symbol. It's our symbolism. It's not the oppressors. It's our origins. And we bring in new, fresh devotion into this, and dedication and growth and life. We bring in new life to these ancient symbols. So I am very, very satisfied with this, and I keep working with this. And you're going to find your own way, where it's writing it in the sand and then allowing kind of the sand to blend or something like that, or in a way that kind of like you don't have to leave a trace, because if you're growing in the West, it can be a banned symbol, it can be misunderstood. So this is not the call to provocation, because it is done in a way of wu wei, no resistance. You're letting it in. It's like the water. You're clearing up the water. You're clearing up the air. You're nourishing the soil, and then you're in the right temperature. You can dance, you can move. And this is the symbol of this type of centering. Very powerful and very tender. It's very tender. It's not aggressive. It's incredibly tender in its work and in its effect. So you can inscribe it on a candle and light a candle. And what's powerful about it, you can do it every day. You can do it every day. It's not necessarily a planetary association. This is the symbol of all symbols. Okay, it's the origin of the earth. And the balancing is kind of like the four wind prayers. So incorporating that in your ritual or in your daily life or in your manifestation, especially centering, purifying, but not eugenics purifying, but purifying the energy, in the sense that you feel centered, you feel at ease, you feel presence, you feel even joy, innere Freude, okay, innere Freude, inner joy, is this sombre joy that you feel with this. And even if you kind of like feel sick or feel weird or feel this or feel that, or when the moon is void, I did it when the moon is void, it was better in the situation. You can just inscribe the symbol, write the words, the intent, put in the intent, it's very important to work to reclaim the egregore. And you can do some alchemy, kind of like all things that all uses of this symbol and of Nazi occult and of these type of occult symbols in a way that is oppressive, being alchemized into biodiversity, love, peace, harmony, wealth, health, for humanity, and for me, the magician or whatever you call this. And that can be incredibly useful. And again, you can tuck it away. If you don't have to write it on paper. You can write it on a candle and then light the candle and be with the candle when you're alone. You can write it, on like a paper, not inscribe it, but just like write it like with a marker and then kind of paint all the marker so people won't see it. So because if you're in the West, the problem is that you can be misunderstood and people can think that you are, resistant. It's absolutely like not the case. So you can do this secretly. You can write it on the sand and then kind of blend the sand in and nourish sand intention to nourish the soil, to create rejuvenation in the soil, centering in the soil. This is very lovely. It's really good for everything. It's kind of like the infinity symbol. It really is good for anything, and it's a great protector by the essence of embellishing on what we do want to grow. So you can use it for protection too, because it does call on the four winds, the four directions. So and you can continue on learning about it, and also learning by practice, seeing what you receive, and And again, it's not about provocation. It's not about, I'm going to make this inscription of this symbol or this painting or this or this that. Perhaps in time you will, um, when it's the right time, when it's ripe. Okay, when it's ripe, it's going to happen when it's ripe. But the essence is that you do answer the calling. If you are called to do it, you know who you are. Maybe you've known since childhood that you would do it. Something like that, you didn't know what, you didn't know how, and you get the calling to do that. I don't know to delineate like such calling or what is it about, so I can't like give you an astrological definition of what or why, but I can tell you that when you have this calling, you know that you're going to do this, okay? And I'm sure many people, some people are like, I'm going to listen to Lord Ganesha, and I'm going to listen to the video where you do see the swastika. I'm going to listen to where the origin of the swastika. I'm going to travel to Asia, travel to India, if you can afford it. Wow, this is so good. And it really, like, it comes to you because the benefit of this symbol, but the benefit of the full winds, the benefits that the Ergor is calling you back to be embraced in the world. So whatever like you grew up with, I'm third generation to Holocaust survivor, and whose entire family but him and his brother was murdered in the Holocaust. And there are more things about other parts of my family that we suspect perhaps were also people hiding their religion or like secrecy around ancestry and stuff like that. So this is also part of my heritage, and I understand the complexity, I understand the many diverse emotions the symbol can provoke even, and how, if you are called to do it, how important it is to listen to this calling, simply because not that something bad will happen if you don't do it. It's more that so much good happens when you do that. Okay, so this is the episode, and feel free to share your experiences with calling on the swastika, with calling on the origin of the symbol, with working with it, and how do you do that, of what you can share that can benefit all of us. So thank you for watching.